right, legends, let's do a little bit of technical analysis here on a Friday. I'm sure most of you are getting ready for the weekend. Let me put the music ever so slightly there in the background. And yes, I have spoken about a 1% chance. Okay, a 1% chance, unless, and we're going to discuss these scenarios today. We're going to start on higher time frame analysis. We're going to work our way down to the 1 hour, to the 15-minute time frame. We'll see if we have time for the 5-minute time frame. But let's discuss the probabilities. And yes, I do agree with some of the comments that I'm reading here at the moment. There's a lot of bearish sentiment at the moment inside of Bitcoin. A lot of bearish sentiment. So let's discuss the probabilities. Okay, let's discuss the probabilities. We're going to look at the structure here on Bitcoin. We're going to look at a little bit of Ethereum. Remember to smash up that like button. And let's go. First, want to say hi to some of the community members here. Joan, welcome. Awesome to have you here on the live stream. Amazing Elliott Wave Counter. He's also part. Joan, you're also part of our Legends Pro community, providing some daily analysis. Okay, so we can all learn together. So always appreciate you inside of our community. Shill, morning peeps. When everybody is afraid to buy, we buy. Right? Is this a buy the dip? Is this an opportunity where we're going to see an explosion that no one is, excuse me, that no one is expecting? Okay, hey Dewald, BG man phone. I'm not sure how to pronounce that properly. Jean, some real technical analysis. Thanks. Good sir, absolute pleasure, man. Welcome, welcome. Kevin, fear and greed is almost under 30. I mean, fear and greed can still go to extreme fear, you know, below 10. Hey legends, Ace of Trades, welcome to the live stream. So without further ado, let's dive into the technical analysis. I just want to see if my sound's coming through. You guys can see me, my sexy face. Okay, let's start. Right, so one of the scenarios I was thinking about this morning, well, actually just before I started the live stream, is that I saw someone else post this scenario, okay, where you have formed a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then this is your A, that's your B, and this is your C to the downside. Okay, so let's talk about this scenario, because I see this scenario is doing its rounds on social media. A lot of people are talking about this scenario. Okay, which is actually not a bad scenario. If you ask me personally, it's not a bad scenario, because the reason this scenario is not bad, it means that the bull market actually came to an end. Yeah. And all of this is part of a corrective structure, after which you continue to the upside. Okay, so just wanted to point this to bed. Guys, you cannot have a 13-month or a 14-month or a year bear market just with one leg here to the downside. Okay, because it already started. So theoretically, if I take, I'm on the daily time frame, from the high to where price is right now, well, you could say, okay, a year is almost gone. So basically the bear market is supposed to come to an end. So I just wanted to discuss this scenario. Okay, definitely a possibility. So let's throw time out the window. Let's not care about time. All I'm trying to highlight here is if you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside, and this is part of a corrective structure after which you see continuation, well, the good news is it's almost done. Okay, yes, it can still go deep, but it's almost done from a timing perspective because the correction already started over here. This scenario carries low probability, but if it had to play out, well, I'll be ready. Swing failure from the low, massive support inside of this zone. Like, guys, you know, for me, and I'm not sure about your personal finances, and I'm not a financial advisor, I can only share with you what I do is I have a long spot bag portfolio. I think the best way for me to explain it is it's a seasonal spot bag, which basically means I don't care if we are in bull markets or if we're on bear markets. I buy every single month. I buy Bitcoin. I buy Bitcoin every single month. I trade, I make profit, I buy some more Bitcoin. And there's only two coins that's in that portfolio. It's Bitcoin and it's Ethereum. That's it. Smaller allocation to Ethereum, large allocation to Bitcoin. That is my long-term portfolio. So from a long-term portfolio perspective, these is opportunities, guys. These are opportunities. So maybe instead of allocating 5 or 10%, okay, which I'm doing now every month, I will go in a little bit more aggressive if we do get a dip to the downside, like I did with this bear market. My long-term portfolio, guys, I was just buying. And the lower we went, the more aggressive I added, because you cannot let a good dip go to waste. Okay. So you need to decide, guys, you know, you're an investor, you have a long-term portfolio, you're a swing trader, maybe you're a scalper, a day trader, right? So depending on which category you fall in, and you could be in all three categories, you have a different plan. Okay, long-term plan, you don't care, you just buy the dip. Short-term plan, swing trading plan, okay, then you have a clear invalidation. Okay, maybe you're playing a larger trade that's going to take you a month or two to play out. Day trading, you get in and out in a single day. You don't care whether the market is in a bear market or in a bull market, you just trade the levels. And I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that they have not classified them in the proper category. Okay, so a lot of people are like, oh shit, the bear market is coming, the world is coming to an end. Why is the world coming to an end? Because you can trade to the downside. You just trade level to level, and from a long-term perspective, you just add to your spot bags. So I'm not sure why people are so fearful of bear markets. Okay, I do realize that a lot of people struggle to short the market. Maybe that's where the fear stems from. Okay, or they in so deep, they've built such big positions here at the top that, oh God, I hope it doesn't fall. I hope it doesn't fall. Well, then you don't have a plan. You do not have a plan, right? Okay, now, so this is one scenario. The only thing I can say, guys, is if this had to play out, well, you do have, for the moment, am I on Coinbase? Yes. Okay, worst case scenario. Let's start with the worst case scenario. Okay, and I'm going to get to the 1% probability in a moment. So make sure that you stay tuned for the 1% probability that could play out over here. The worst case scenario that could potentially play out here is my little doomsday scenario. Can you guys see where my mouse is? Here on top. My doomsday scenario here on top. Okay, and let's switch that on. There is our little doomsday scenario. Okay. Considering this structure that's floating around on social media. Okay, you have 5 waves up and you created an A, B, C flat. B took the high and C is going to take the low, after which you expect continuation back to the upside. And we have targets for this little bad boy over here. This doomsday scenario, we do have targets for this scenario. You take your trend base FIB from the high to the low of A to the high of B, and you reverse it. Okay, so the levels are to the downside. Well, the 1.618, where I have the C wave marked out over here, okay, 1.618 is the most common target for an ABC flat, and that is at $69,000, give or take. Okay, I'm just going to use round numbers. So now this presents a great opportunity after which you want to see continuation. Okay, there's a couple of problems with this scenario, and I'm not giving the scenario the highest probability. This means that we broke the 4-year cycle theory. Okay, there's a couple of problems where your A wave already took the high of the 5th wave, okay, before it had the retrace. There's a couple of problems with this scenario, but I'm just saying that a dip presents an opportunity from a spot bag perspective, because you have to remember, when you have 5 waves to the upside, that is a potential wave 1, and then when you have a corrective structure in a 3-wave structure, well, what does that give you? It gives you a wave 2, and then you expect absolute fireworks to the upside, because a 3rd wave is way more explosive than this, what you've seen over here. It's way more aggressive. It has a higher amount of volume. So that, from a larger time frame perspective, guys, for me is an opportunity. Okay, It's an opportunity at the end of the day. Right. A scenario that is still bearish, that carries higher probability, okay, is that your fifth wave is over there. Okay, I'm not going to count you basically have a 1, 2, 3, 4 and an extended fifth wave in maybe in a contracting diagonal that I've explained. Okay, you have a contracting diagonal. We ended the bull market in a contracting diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Okay, let me just switch this doomsday scenario off. Okay, this scenario also has problems, but it carries higher probability than the previous scenario that I've just shared with you guys. Okay, we've basically ended the bull market in a three-wave structure, and the only way that you can end a bull market in a three-wave structure is if it's a wave B and we're going to get a C, or you ended the fifth wave in a contracting structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. And now only the correction starts after we made this top. So we only literally started with the correction now. There's always also a couple of problems with this scenario, but it does carry higher probability than the previous scenario. Remember to smash up that like button, guys. Okay, dropping the alpha here, just explaining the probabilities and the scenarios over here. So yes, you can end the bull market in a three-wave structure, but it has to be an ending diagonal. And some of the problems with this ending diagonal is that this wave, okay, looks very much like a five-wave structure, and it's not allowed to be a five-wave structure. In an ending diagonal, all structures inside of the ending diagonal has to be three-wave structures. Now there's your problem. That's a little bit of a problem. Okay, right. So the market is not perfect. I'm just highlighting probabilities on the scenarios that has the least amount of problems. So when I identify a scenario that has the least amount of problems, I then use that as the higher probability scenario. Also, something that you need to remember, I just want to make the music a little bit softer. Also, what you need to remember is that diagonals, whether it's expanding, whether it's contracting, any diagonal, especially on the larger time frame, always carries low probability. You always have to consider something else before you start considering diagonals. But I'm just highlighting it over here. Okay, so in this scenario, now you're only starting your correction. Okay, so let me take this out the way. So all of this, okay, this entire structure now basically, where's the lines? Let me do this. Moves. Okay, it now moves over. Preferably we take the low, maybe we create a flat, maybe we don't create a flat, and then we go down. Right, and I think this is what's creating the fear at the moment, is people are now speculating that this is the end, and we are now going into a bear market that's going to last roughly a year. Because based on data, all previous bear markets were roughly 1 year. Some of them were 11 months, some of them were 13 months. Okay, but let's say roughly the bear market takes a year, and the bull market takes roughly 3 years to the upside. So 3 years plus the 1 year bear market gives you the 4-year theory, the 4-year cycle. So now you also have your doomsday scenario that goes hand in hand with this. So there's my doomsday scenario. Okay, because a A wave can be a 5-wave structure. That little A wave can be a 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You make a 3-wave structure in B, and you fall again in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because C has to be a 5-wave structure. Maybe we find the lows here, okay, at $54,000, and then we continue the bull market to the upside. So the only difference between this scenario and the previous scenario is that the bear market is going to last a little bit longer, but I'm still looking at the same area of interest. Same area of interest. Whether we go down in a, where was this? ABC. Okay, looking at the same area of interest. Okay, well, guys, I will just be buying the dips. From a long-term perspective, I will be buying the dips. It literally is that simple. If it wants to go up, well, great. If it wants to come down, I buy again, because I'm not planning to cash out my long-term portfolio next year. No, it's going to stay there. Well, hopefully I get 200 years old. Okay. So, right, it's going to stay there for a long time, guys. It's going to stay there for a long time, most probably for my children, my child to inherit as well. Okay, so that is basically the one scenario that I wanted to point out, guys. I know everyone is bearish. I see it in the sentiment. I see it on the news feed that we got this morning inside of our Legends Pro community. People are now calling for sub $100,000. Some people are calling for $80,000. Well, I can tell you now, if this is the start of the bear market, it's not going to be $100,000. It's not going to be $90,000. It's most likely going to be $50,000. Because you need this impulse to properly correct itself. As you can see what happened during the previous bull cycle. Okay, you're not going to get a massive pump to the upside and just correct a couple of $1,000s and continue. You need a proper bear market so that the timing matches the timing over here. It needs to balance itself out. You can't have a rally to the upside and just dip and continue. We all know what happened from a timing perspective. Okay, so it needs to balance itself out. Right, so that is the ending diagonal, where you can end a 5-wave structure in a 3-wave structure, after which you want to see either a 3-wave structure down, which is corrective. That would be great if we can get a 3-wave structure down, because it will then confirm that we will claim that high again. And then you have a 3-wave in B and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in C. And then this provides a great buying opportunity. Okay, you guys can see how we move down here in a 3-wave structure. Look at this. Okay, 3-wave structure. Beautiful. A, B, C. Maybe that was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we continued. And you see wave needs to be a 5-wave structure. I'm not going to go into the micro counts over there, but you guys get the point. It was a 3-wave structure down. Price still formed a higher low, and we created a new bull cycle to the upside. Okay, so now bullish case scenarios. I'm going to stay here on the larger time frame just for a couple of minutes. Okay, 2 more minutes, and just, well, you know, there needs to be a bullish case scenario as well. I just want to see if I have it. I don't have it on this chart. Let's go to the Binance chart. Okay, because everyone's going to ask me, well, Dewald, what are the bullish case scenarios? So before I put any scenarios on the chart, okay, based on the local structure that is still forming at the moment, there is still a high probability that we take out the high at least one more time, at least one more time. Okay, whether it does this and falls, or whether it continues a little bit more up and then it falls, but there's still a higher probability that we take out the high at least once more before we start a bear market. And it's not because I feel like it or I say it, guys. It's just based on probabilities and the structure at the moment. That is the highest probability. If anything changes over here, well, we form that. Okay, so from a structural perspective, let me make it very simple. Okay, from a structural perspective, it's very simple, guys. You have a low and you have a high. Or you have a high, whichever high you prefer. Okay, price needs to take this low. It needs to take the low. Then we can start talking about bear markets, because now you're starting to change structure. Okay, once price is here, I'm not selling anything over here, guys. I'm not selling anything, because whatever goes up must come down, and whatever goes down must come up for correction. So if you're going to form a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take the low, you start changing market structure, it has to correct itself. That is where I exit. A, B, C. That is where I exit. And then you get the dump to the downside. So you basically form your A, you form your B, and your C to the downside. That is where I exit. So you can also see this from the previous bull cycle. Okay, there was a clue in the previous bull cycle. There was a clue. Okay, first clue over here, after you make this top, look at what happened. I must probably, if I had to do a live stream and price was over here somewhere, okay, or price was over here somewhere, I would have said the exact same thing. I would have said, guys, we can start talking about a bear market once we take the low. And price did. It took the low, it retraced, that is where you exit. Okay, not here, because then you're in a loss depending on where you bought. I'm not gonna exit in a loss. You exit at the retracement, and then all hell broke loose and it fell to the downside. Yes, we still had this momentum back to the upside, but here you can see you have a low, you start changing market structure after the high, you take the low. Now you need to seriously start considering getting out of your positions with any retracement back to the upside, because you just never know how high it's going to retrace to the upside. But once you take the low and you start retracing, this was not an easy one. Okay, that was way better to exit over here. So even if you exited all your positions over here, I mean, you would have still been glad to miss out on this little pump, because all hell broke loose after that. Okay, so I need the price action and the structure to show me the way. And at the moment, based on the price action I see in front of me, that you see in front of you, okay, we have a low, we have a high, and we still have higher lows. The structure is still intact. So people calling for a bear market, based on what are you calling a bear market? Are you looking at the technicals? Are you assuming? Are you making assumptions? Okay, the structure is still intact. Okay, right, the most bearish structure. So let's go now to the 4-hour time frame. So let's talk about the Doomsday scenario. I'm going to just open up a new tab over here. Let's do this. Legends, I will go through the comments in a moment. I'm in a zone here with a technical analysis. Okay, I will go through some comments. I will spend a good amount of time in the comment section today, but I'm in a zone over here, so I just want to tackle these scenarios. It's this one. Is it this one? Okay, no, let's go to the Coinbase one. Okay, so the Doomsday scenario to the downside is a 5-wave structure down. So let's zoom into this structure. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame. Okay, so this is the worst case scenario that could play out at the moment, because on the Coinbase chart, not on all the charts, okay, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave structure to the downside. That could give you your wave 1. You have now made a 3-wave structure to the upside for a wave 2. And now what you want to see is you don't want this high to be claimed again, because price needs to fall. Okay, so what you would like to see is now also you have a 5-wave structure here to the downside. So this could potentially now be your wave 1. Okay, so let me drag this up. Let me do this. Okay, let's just leave it like that. So now you have a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete your 3rd wave of this number 1. So you have a 1, 2, 3. Remember, 3 has to have 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go back up for 4. You go down for 5. That gives you A. And then the retracement is where you get out. Right. This is the worst case scenario. I just have to share it with the community. It is very strange, okay, from a probability perspective, to end a bull market with a 3-wave structure is rare. Market structure is still intact. We still have higher highs and higher lows. Okay, but I need to share this scenario with everyone. And I also, because I've received some questions from people saying, Dewald, but then where are you going to exit? Are you just going to wait for $50,000 before you exit? No, I'm going to exit at the retracement. And depending on which side of my portfolio you are referring to, I have a cycle portfolio, I have a seasonal portfolio, I have a trading portfolio, I have stuff around portfolios where I just stuff around basically. Okay, so depending on which portfolio you're referring to, that portfolio might have an exit strategy. Okay, but from a long-term perspective, I see this as an opportunity. Right, that is the doomsday scenario. Now, let me still share with you the other scenarios that potentially still carries higher probability. Okay, we have to acknowledge that we have a higher low at the moment, and even if price still dips low, as long as you can maintain a higher low, the structure is still bullish, increasing the probability that you're going to take out that high again. Okay, so also if you take excuse me, also if you take a fib from the high to the low to the high, well, you can see very shallow retracement so far. We've only tapped the 0.382. You still have all of this, okay, to form a decent higher low. All of this, okay, before we can start talking about a bear market to the downside. Right, guys, and this is basic technical analysis. If you do not know anything about Elliott wave theory, well, you look at market structure, okay? You have a low, you have a high. You form a higher low, okay, you continue, higher high, higher low. Your bias is to look for momentum and longs to the upside. Higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high. And now, maybe for the first time, we have formed a lower high. And we have formed a lower low. So now this is where you need to be starting to get a little bit concerned, because you're breaking structure to the upside, and you have now formed a lower high and a lower low for the first time in this upwards momentum. Okay, but it could still be a corrective structure, okay, to the downside. So this could still be an A, B, C that's done. That's the scenario that a lot of people are watching at the moment, or it could still form a larger corrective structure to the downside and then get the bounce. I'm going to discuss these scenarios in a moment. Okay, and I'm just going to focus on a couple of them, guys, because there are many scenarios that could play out from an Elliott wave perspective. I'm just going to narrow it down to make it simple for everyone to understand. As price develops, I will start talking about other scenarios that for now carry low probability because I don't have enough data to give some of those scenarios higher probability. Okay, so now, Coinbase, Mr. Coinbase over here. Ooh, okay, so the one thing I want to highlight quickly over here is that we do have a 5-wave structure up, down. We have a 3-wave structure up. So the most dangerous thing that can happen right now is for price to not take this high. If the bulls can take the high at $116,500, well, that will start to look really good. Okay, so this high needs to be claimed for the bulls to start gaining probability that the price could move higher. Okay, so one scenario I want to highlight over here is that let's talk about $95,000. Let's talk about $95,000, guys. And maybe while I'm discussing the bearish case scenarios, okay, why don't we just, change the background to red? This is a very interesting bearish case scenario where we've made the top. This is a bearish case scenario that I've highlighted many times in the stream. You formed an A, a B, a C, okay, that gives you a W. We've now gone up for an X, and now what you want to see is an A, B, C, where you then form a larger 3-wave structure, you form a higher low, and you continue momentum to the upside. Okay. And I'm going to show you something very interesting about this scenario when you compare it to Ethereum as well. Okay, guys, in a moment, I'm going to jump into this little structure. In a moment, I'm getting there. I'm working my way down. So for now, because market structure is still intact, some of the bearish case scenarios have issues inside of the structure. This structure has no issues. There's nothing wrong with this structure. Balances perfectly. Okay, you formed a top in a leading diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have an ABC, and yes, we're going to discuss the probability. Can that still be the low, and we are going to continue here to the upside? Okay, there is a possibility that could be the low, but it carries low probability. And that is where the 1% probability comes from. And I'll discuss that in a moment. Okay. The scenario where we form a WXY and we still go and hit at least $95,000 is now starting to carry higher probability because of what happened over the last couple of days. Remember, the more price action I see, the more the more I can change probabilities towards different scenarios, because price action shows me the way. And that's where you can start eliminating some scenarios and give other scenarios higher or lower probability. So for now, this looks like the scenario that's starting to gain in probabilities. What is very interesting, okay? What is very interesting about this scenario is that when I look at ETH, okay, I was doing some macro counts here on ETH, but okay, guys, maybe just to entertain, I need to make myself green here because people are going to think I'm really smoking my socks, okay? I was just stuffing around this morning, and I shared this scenario with Andy as well. I said, I'm here on the 3-day chart. So guys, this is macro analysis. And, you know, I just told Andy, what if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we formed a wave 1 during the previous bull cycle. This was all a WXY corrective structure in a wave 2. And what if this is now the 1? We're still busy with a correction in 2. We go up for 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. Imagine, okay? Imagine, guys. Just imagine. Anyways, what's more interesting is the local structure that I quickly want to share over here. Okay, I will go in folder and clean this up. Let's go here to the 8-hour time frame. So let's just look at this little local structure because I want to compare it to what's happening on Bitcoin. Okay, so can you guys see? Same structure. Okay, same time frame. 4 hour. Let's do this 4 hour as well. Okay, so what is interesting about Ethereum, and Ethereum could potentially be giving us the clue as to what Bitcoin's next move is going to be, because Ethereum is actually holding up very strong compared to most of the other altcoins. Okay, you have an impulsive structure to the upside, and this is where the correction started. Okay, I was always leaning more on the side that this impulse is finished. If you've been following my live stream, I've always been leaning more on the side. I think it's done. Okay, because there is a scenario where this is a 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, and we go up for one more leg. And I kept on saying to the to the legends, like, how awesome would it be for this to be the high, and we form a larger corrective structure. Okay, a larger corrective structure to correct this impulse, because that will be more bullish for Ethereum, way more bullish, because that's then a 1. This becomes a 2, and you go up for a 3, instead of just making one more 5/5 wave to the upside. Okay, so this is the difference, guys, is that if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, is not amazing. Okay, but if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we form a larger corrective structure, well, now that looks better to me, because after a 1 and a 2, you expect an explosive third wave to the upside, and not just this mini thing over here. So one of the interesting scenarios, there's a bullish case scenario. I'm going to discuss the bullish case scenarios. So let me put myself here back at red. Let's discuss the bearish case scenario. Is that you have formed, do I have it here? There we go. Sorry guys, got confused. Okay, so we have formed a 5-wave structure to the upside. We have formed an A in a 3-wave structure, okay, and a B in a running triangle. And then we go down for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a C wave. Now that looks like a beautiful 3-wave corrective structure, after which you make a higher low and continuation back to the upside. And what is interesting about the scenario is that when I overlay it with Bitcoin, well, it looks very similar. Okay, Bitcoin creates a B wave, and then it goes down for a C. ETH wraps up its B wave, and it goes down for a C. So do you guys see the similarities between the two? Now, this is where it becomes really interesting for me, is to say that, well, even after another dump to the downside, I mean, this is amazing support over here, guys. It's amazing support. That little consolidation area will provide some decent support for Ethereum. When you form a 5-wave structure to the upside, okay, yes, the low could be in, and we still make one more 5th wave here to the upside, but the scenario doesn't look pretty for me, and I'll discuss it. Okay, I did share with the Legends Pro community this morning that this bearish case scenario, which is actually still very bullish, it looks cleaner. It has no mistakes inside of it. Where some of the other scenarios, you're like, it almost feels like you're forcing the scenario. Okay, but we need to be prepared, because I trade level to level at the end of the day. But here is, because I know some people have asked me for a bearish case scenario on Ethereum. Well, here you go. Here's your bearish case scenario on Ethereum. You've created the top, and we're still going to make another low. In an B in a triangle, you're allowed to make a B in a triangle in an A, B, C, D, E, after which you want to see a rejection, backtest, and you basically want to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete your C wave, after which you still expect upwards momentum. So I personally would love to see this. Okay, so I know that everyone's calling for a bear market. It's potentially a great buying opportunity. But can you imagine if Bitcoin still had to fall and Ethereum had to fall? That will confirm everyone's sentiment. Then people are going to say, yes, I knew it. I knew we were going into a bear market. And then this happens. Now that will catch most people off guard. Can you imagine? Okay, I knew it. We're in a bear market, and then you explode. I knew it. Okay, we're in a bear market, and then the price absolutely explodes. So yes, I think a lot of people might be thinking to themselves, well, everyone is expecting a bear market, so perhaps it's the best buying opportunity. Well, you know, why don't the market makers confirm their sentiment so that they start shorting? And where's the liquidity going to build up? Guys, where is that liquidity going to build up if people think that we are truly in a bear market? And then you go and you grab all of it. Okay, you stop them all out and you liquidate them. They're going to put their stop losses here. People that believe that we're on a bear market and they're building massive swing positions to the downside, this is where they're putting their stop losses, guys, below each higher low. Okay, if price had to roll down here, well, that's going to liquidity is just going to build up. Okay, we definitely in a bear market. Okay, more people are going to start shorting, and then bang, you stop all of them out. So from a psychology perspective, I think this is the best scenario. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to play out, guys. Okay, because now we need to talk about bullish case scenarios as well. So bullish case scenario, let's go on to the 1 hour time frame. Now let's look at the structure, because there is a chance, okay, there is a chance that after we created this high, you have an A, B, C, done. There's a chance. The problem, which is now becoming a little bit of a problem, is this structure. Okay, because after you make a low, you want to see impulsive structures to the upside. So this is why I'm now discussing this local structure over here, which I want to zoom into at the moment. Okay, guys, remember to smash up that like button. So let's change my background to blue to make it neutral. There we go. And if you want to join our Legends Pro community, guys, the link is always, it's down in the description, Legends Pro community. If you want to join the Legends Pro community, where we dropped the alpha first. Andy was very active inside of our community yesterday, guiding and assisting the community. Right, I also jumped into a trade last night just before I went to bed, and I'll discuss that right now here at the moment. So for bullish momentum to continue here to the upside, because we took the low, okay, we now took this low. Okay, let me go here to the Bybit chart, because I've got all my analysis already plotted out here. Okay, so we were all hoping, okay, for a double 1-2. It needs to form a higher low, and you want to see the third wave explosion. And then yesterday, it invalidated a double 1-2. Now you have to look at the structure and say, well, what else? Is there a bullish structure inside here? Well, the only other bullish structure, let me go back here onto the 1 hour, is expanding diagonal. Okay, and this is where the title for this stream comes from. This expanding diagonal carries less than a 1% probability to play out, but a probability nonetheless. The invalidation for this scenario is very clear. Okay, where's my magnet? There's your invalidation. And let's type it, invalidation. Okay, that is the invalidation for the scenario. It carries exceptionally low probability, guys. And you might then be saying to yourself, well, maybe the lowest probability scenario is going to play out. Well, then it's simple. You build a position, you put your stop loss below the low. It literally is that simple. Just make sure that you don't lose your entire account when you get stopped out. Don't go 50, 100x leverage with your entire portfolio. Manage your position size accordingly, because it has a 1% probability of playing out. Okay, you formed 5 waves in an expanding structure, and you have formed an A, a B flat, and a C. Okay, so the fact that you have an expanding structure is already rare, and to have a flat inside of a diagonal is even more rare. So you have 2 rarities now building up against the scenario. There is potentially another scenario that's also bullish, that carries higher probability than this scenario, but it's way too early to talk about this scenario. But I just want to share with everyone to kind of show you, well, this scenario actually carries higher probability than this diagonal. I'm not sure if I still have it here. Is it this one? Yeah, there we go. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame. Okay. The invalidation is exactly the same. You're not allowed to take the low. We have formed a 3-wave structure in a wave 1. You form a corrective structure in a wave 2. You go up in a 3. You go down in a 3. You go up in a 5. And now you have a wave 1. You go down for a 2. And then you explode to the upside. But again, it's a diagonal. And diagonals never carry the highest probability. Invalidation, the same. So I can imagine if price had to really start running here to the upside, people are going to say, Dewald, that expanding diagonal played out. I'm going to tell you then I'm going to prioritize this scenario, because this one carries higher probability than the previous scenario. Okay, legends, I really want to still be here on the live stream with you, but I need to go to the bathroom. I had way too much water before I started the live stream. So it's either I end it, or you give me 5 minutes to go to the, or 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to just leave you here with a little bit of music, and then I'll be back. All right, legends, I'm back. I was thinking to myself, I need to go to the bathroom, but I don't want to end the live stream. There's still a lot that I want to discuss, especially on the smaller time frame. And I still want to go through your comments. Still want to go through the comments. That was fast. Well, thick hosepipe water flows quickly. That's what I like to say, guys. If you have a thick hosepipe in your garden, the water flows quickly through a thick hosepipe. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, I am again drinking some more water. That music and the chart, cinematic tension vibes. Oh, Dorpy. No problem. Okay, let's go, legends. So, if price... Okay, so what I wanted to end it off with this structure. If price finds its feet and it goes up, I will not consider the expanding structure. I would rather consider this structure. And there will be an opportunity to get back in where you form a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunity continuation to the upside. Okay. This is kind of the highest probable scenario we have at the moment. The biggest problem with this scenario is that it's way too early to talk about a type of scenario like this. I usually like to talk about diagonals at least when the third wave is in. And I mean, we're still here, guys. We're still here. You know, it's dancing around here. Okay. Once that third wave is in and we start correcting, that's when I start highlighting the diagonals to the community. Okay. So just wanted to make, to point this out. So let's take this out the way. Now let's look at the local structure. Let's look at this little local structure. Okay, let's go to the 15-minute time frame. What happened yesterday? So this is now where the trading scenarios starts to kick in, the day trading scenarios, because you have to remember at the end of the day, from a day trading perspective, this is now where I have my day trading hat on. I do not care whether we are still in a bull market or whether we're going into a bear market. From a day trading perspective, I just want to be able to short. I want to be able to long. I want to be able to short. I want to be able to long. I did actually have a long year last night, which I'll discuss. I'm already out that trade because I went to bed. I had a TP. TP kicked in, so successful trade in the bag. So all you need as a day trader, price needs to go up and down. You need volatility so you can trade the levels up and down. So you shouldn't care whether we're going into a bear market or a bull market if you are a day trader. If you're an investor, well, then bear market should provide opportunities depending on how long your investing horizon is. Okay, so from a day trading perspective, okay, we have potentially a 5-wave structure here to the downside. Okay, let me see if I have all of these scenarios. Large diagonal. Did I save them? Let's see. Yeah, that's the local 5 waves up and local bearish. Okay, basically here we go. Right, so I'm looking at the structure from the high to the low. Looking at this structure, what is it? What can it like to be? And it looks like you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 in a flat 5. Okay. And you are now potentially forming your A wave. You go down for a B and you go back up for C. So this is the bearish case scenarios. But I'm very interested in longs and I'm very interested to take profits. And once I've taken profits over here, I'm also very interested in shorts. And depending on how price reacts at those levels, I will decide whether I do want to take those trades. If it meets my criteria, if I can tick my tick boxes. But if you have a 5-wave structure to the downside, you get a 3-wave structure up and you can continue to the downside. But remember, on the larger time frames, this could also be your A. This is your B. And you go down for a C. You finish the correction, we go back up. Okay. Remember, this is the most important high for the bulls to reclaim at the moment is the high. The bulls needs to reclaim this high. Because if this is an A wave, okay, B can even go and hit the 0.88, it can hit the 0.9. And there I say it can even, okay, create a flat where it takes the liquidity. It makes people believe we're going back up and it forms a B wave and it dumps. Okay, but there's still a lot that needs to happen for that scenario to play out. For a B, you basically want to grab the liquidity. If we're going to make a flat that takes the high, you basically want to see a liquidity grab and it needs to start trading below. If it breaks out properly with high volume, it needs to flip this area into support. You want to see some bullish CVD, and then you know you can get continuation to the upside. So there's things that I will be looking for. Is it a rejection or is it a continuation? Okay, because we all know what happened. Yeah, we all know what happened. Yeah. Okay. Is it getting continuation or is it getting exhausted? And I'm not sure if you guys remember all the live streams that I did while we were pumping here. Okay, guys, it's getting exhausted. It's getting exhausted. It's getting exhausted. Okay. Maybe this is the top. Maybe this is the top. Maybe this is the top. Okay. And eventually, okay, when you see those peaks that start rolling over, the best way for me to explain it is that, okay, it starts slowing down. It's rolling over. Okay. And you create those peaks, and there was bearish CVD, RSI, bearish, classic bearish RSI divergence between these peaks. Okay, then you know, okay, well, you don't want to see weakness when you want to continue to the upside. Why are you now seeing weakness? You need to see strength. So what I'm trying to explain to you is I saw weakness here. I didn't see strength. So if price comes up here and it shows me weakness, well, I'm going to short, guys. If I see strength, I'm not going to short. So, right, let's just keep it simple. Let's go back to the scenario. Okay, let's go to the 15-minute. So, one scenario that could play out over here, and you guys can see, based on Elliott wave theory, levels of confluence, okay, I have a trading plan. Okay, so you could have decided to play the breakout. Okay, maybe you decided to play this little breakout. Okay, stop goes below the low. Maybe you build your position here. If it comes back for a retest, you add a little bit more. Okay, but you at least want to see a three-wave structure here to the upside. I am more interested in trading this leg than this. I'm not really interested to trade this, guys. Not interested. I'm interested in trading this leg. So if I get what I want as a technical trader, if we get a nice little retracement and we start hitting that low, that's an interesting low. Okay, now that to me is a longing opportunity. You could have a trend. Okay, maybe it forms that little consolidation. It breaks out. You can either play the breakout. You can play the SFPs from the levels. Okay, however you want to trade it. I'm not going to tell you how you need to trade it. You need to have your plan. Okay, but I will share with the Legends Pro community if I do jump into a trade. And okay, because this is the leg that I'm interested to trade. So it's either going to form an ABC, and dare I say, if it goes up here, okay, and it does this, and it continues, well, now that changes probabilities. If you have a 5-wave structure up, now that is interesting. So definitely going to be looking for my shorts, okay, and if it falls and I get stopped out, I'm going to be looking for longs. I'm going to be looking for longs, okay, because when you have a 5, guys, I'm just trading the structures, okay, but you get the point. So let's stick with the scenario. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This could be the end. You ended on lower volume. That's what you want to see. Your third wave had the most amount of volume. Your fifth wave has less amount of volume. You want to see a corrective 3-wave corrective structure. I've just labeled it an ABC because that's the most common corrective structure, but it can form a WXY. It can build triangles here while we correcting here at the moment. But what you expect to see is a lower high compared to this high, and you want price to fall down. Okay, so the setup that I traded last night was this, because I realized, okay, that the structure could be coming to an end. When we started falling here, okay, and we took the low, I was like, hang on, I see a 1, 2, 3. This could now be the last leg in your fifth wave, or in your wife. I also had a corrective structure that I was tracking, but this could now be the last leg. Or you have a WXY where you have an ABC in a Y. So based on my bearish count and based on my impulsive count, I knew that it could be coming to an end. So I was very interested to play the breakout of this trend. Very interested. And this is what I highlighted to the Legends Pro community last night. Guys, I'm very interested to play this breakout. Very interested. Okay. I entered. I was a little bit late because I was doing other things, but I knew the probabilities were high to move up to at least come and claim this pivot or these highs. Okay. So I entered. Stop goes below the low. And I had my TP over here somewhere, okay? I had my TP over there. Because I went to bed, I couldn't monitor the trade. I was just like, well, I'm happy with this move. Very happy with this move. And this morning when I woke up, position closed. Profits in the bag. That's what you'd like to see. And now, okay, I'm out the trade. Now I'm looking for the next trading opportunity. Okay, it's about winning the trade. It's not about, oh, now I missed out on all of these profits. No, man, it's not about that. You now look for the next trading opportunity. High probable trading opportunity. Okay, so we could be forming a 5-wave structure up here. So maybe let's do this. Put A over there. Okay, based on this local structure, a wave can be a 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe this is an A, B, and it's going to build a C wave here to the downside. Very interested in these two zones for long. It's either going to SFP this low, or it's going to come down to the second wave, and it's going to find its feet. Okay, but ideally, I don't want to see high time frame candle closes below the trend. It needs to, bounce here on the trend. Bounce, 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 and get momentum to the upside. I am very interested in this leg to the upside. If I don't see what I want, I might not even enter that trade. I want to see bullish CVD. I want to see some strength. Hopefully I can SFP a level and get in with great risk management. If price wants to continue to chop here to the upside, well, it doesn't fit my trading plan. I'm just going to sit on my hands. If price decides to chop here still to the upside, well, then I still have levels to the upside. Okay, these highs look very interesting. $12,000, this high over here, that high, to me looks like a great shorting opportunity, because when I look at, let me show you guys, when I look at liquidity, well, we have a massive amount of liquidity at $12,000. So the $12,000 mark, together with this pivot high and the 0.618, looks to me like a great shorting opportunity. So it's either going to continue straight up there and then I'll be looking for a short, or it's going to correct, I'll be looking for a long. It's going to go up, I'll take profits, and I'm going to be looking for a short. So that's kind of roughly my trading plan for the day. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Unfortunately, no one can predict the market. No one. And if there's anyone that tells you that they can successfully 100% accuracy predict the market, they are smoking their socks. Definitely, they're smoking their socks. Okay. Right, so this is basically the smaller time frame that I'm watching here at the moment, guys. This is my trading plan. Okay, I'm looking for a long, I'm looking for a short. $12,000 area, the 618 basically looks very interesting to me for a short based on liquidity. Okay, I want to see some local bearish CVD. There's a couple of things that I will keep in mind. If you'd like to come and trade, guys, that 50% cashback on weeks. I'm not sure if you have all heard about that. Okay, let me just open it up over here. It's this one. Okay, let's do this. There we go. Okay, let me see if you can all see this. Yes. Weeks, this is for new people. If you have been wondering how weeks is, okay, you haven't dipped your toes into weeks just as yet, They offer 50% features bonus. We myself and Andy had a chat to the team, and they recognized that a lot of people lost a lot of money on the 10th of October with that flash crash. So they're really pulling out the stops to try and help people get back into the game. Okay, so you will get 50% cash back if you deposit $100 or more to trade with extra. Okay, for people that sign up, right? And if you are already a subscriber, well, the more you trade, the more money gets airdropped into your account. Right, well, links is down in the description. I've got Bluffin, you get 15% cash back the more you trade. I've got Weeks, okay. I've got BTCC where you can trade gold and commodities as well. And then here's the Legends Pro link down in the description. Okay, so quickly, before I go into the comment section, let me just put my face here back on the right-hand side. Let's quickly just cover the bullish case scenario on Ethereum. So I have now spoken about this scenario, which I really like, by the way, but I mean, I need to trade the levels. I can't just wait for a scenario that I like and then it doesn't play out, because there is a bullish case scenario. I don't like the bullish case scenario. It looks ugly, but I have to consider it. Okay, so bullish case scenario is, let's just zoom into this little structure. Okay, guys, I'm going to try and do ETH and Bitcoin analysis every time I do a live stream. Okay, it keeps it a little bit interesting because I see there's a lot of requests for Ethereum analysis as well. So this is my bullish case scenario. Okay, you formed a three-wave structure in a W, complex corrective structure in an X, and you're building an A, B, C, D, E. So, remember we used to look at this as maybe an A, B, C, D, E, and you wanted to see continuation. But now price took these lows. It took those lows over there. Okay, so perhaps what's happening now from a bullish perspective is it's just forming a larger triangle. Okay, where you formed an A, B, C, D, E, and you want to see the breakout. You want to see the breakout, and most importantly, that high needs to be claimed, because that will give confirmation for the bullish case scenario. Okay, I don't like it. One of the reasons, I can just highlight one reason why I don't like it, is because X tapped the 0.7. If I take a fib from the high to the low of W, you will see that X tapped the 0.7, which states that the probabilities are higher that your Y does not take the low of W, which it did. It took the low. It's not an invalidation, but it impacts the probabilities, and that is why I prefer the bearish case. But I will be ready. Okay, I will be ready from a trading perspective, or I'll miss it. But yeah, I mean, I do most of my trading on Bitcoin anyway. So okay, so this is your bullish case scenario. It's not invalidated. You're potentially just forming a larger triangle. This is the best bullish case scenario that I can find here on Ethereum at the moment, guys. There's a couple of other scenarios. Okay, I brainstormed it with Joan and with Andy this morning as well, and I asked them, guys, if you see anything that I'm not seeing that carries high probability, well, please share, because the only bullish case scenario is that we're building a larger triangle in a Y wave. You do not want this low to be claimed. And ideally, you do not want this low to be claimed either. Okay. Right, now we can go through some comments. Okay, because I know that's the favorite part of the live stream. People want me to read their comments. Let's go. Bitcoin has bottomed. Swift, there's a chance. There's a 1% chance, but there's a chance. Okay, unless we build that diagonal to the upside. Okay, the only way, guys, I can count this as a corrective structure. Yeah, I mean that expanding structure. Okay, in an expanding diagonal. Okay. Let me put it this way, guys. If this scenario plays out, If this scenario plays out and price does this, it just explodes. Okay. And I mean, this third wave can really stretch its legs. So if I take a trend-based FIP from the low to the high to the low, okay, you're looking at a minimum target of $123,000 for your third wave. Then you still need to form 4 and you still need to form 5. So these are the conservative targets: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, third wave can go to the 2.618, it can go to the 3.618. Third waves can get really punchy, but at least in a third wave you want to see the 1.618 hit. Okay, if this had to play out, it will be the first time that I've ever seen it on Bitcoin, especially on the larger time frames, 1 hour, 15-minute time frame. It will be the first time that I've ever seen it. If you have an expanding structure as a technical analyst saved in a folder that's happened on Bitcoin before, please share it with me. Please, 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 please share it with me, because I would love to see it. I have never seen an expanding diagonal play out on Bitcoin. There's one expanding diagonal that is under dispute on Bitcoin, and I have actually counted it differently than an expanding structure. Okay. So yes, I'm not saying we're going down guaranteed, guys. I'm not saying we're going down guaranteed. Okay, this structure has a chance. You still have a higher low compared to this low. Okay, I would rather preference, like I said just now, I would rather put this little structure in a, where is it? Where did I save that structure now? Large diagonal, right? I would rather be looking at a scenario like this. Much rather. Still not the best scenario, but it carries way higher probabilities than the expanding structure. Okay. This one will actually take us to much higher prices. Much higher prices. Okay. Because if you form a 3-wave structure up in a 3, and you do your 4 and you do your 5, after your corrective structure, you still expect another leg to the upside. So this is actually a way more bullish structure, but it's just too early to talk about this. I need to see us take this high first before I can talk about the scenario. Okay. I just don't see that BTC has bottomed yet. Yes, Mike's, I agree with you. We are still going to connect with the monthly and bi-monthly. I agree with you. Okay, so dare I say, guys, yes, there's a chance that the low will hold and we're going to find upwards momentum. Based on technicals and probabilities, and I mean, there's many times where the lowest probability scenarios do play out. I just don't expect the expanding diagonal to play out. Okay. Where's that other one? Large diagonal, expanding diagonal, double 1 2 completed. Oof, guys, I need to really this one got invalidated. Oh, it's on the different chart, that's why. It's on a different, I'm now using the Coinbase and the Binance chart to do my technical analysis. Okay, large WXY. So it's basically this one. This scenario is actually now starting to carry higher probability than the bullish case scenarios, but it's still bullish. So Mike's, yes, I agree with you. Okay, it's still bullish. This structure is still bullish. You still expect upwards momentum. It's this structure that's the problem at the moment. The bullishness inside of this local structure looks ugly. There's a chance that it could play out. Okay. But from a technical Elliott wave theory perspective, there's a higher chance that we make another low and then we continue to the upside. Which basically means that the bull market is still intact. We're just going to grab some more liquidity and scare the crap out of a little bit more people, and then we continue. Okay, and that also aligns with the bearish case scenario or / bullish on Ethereum. Okay. ABC triangle. There we go. Okay, I will sort out my folders a little bit better during the next live stream. So now that looks better from a technical perspective. But we have to consider that sometimes the rare possibilities do play out. Yes, sir, I agree with you. What will happen to alts with a bearish scenario? Well, they're obviously going to bleed. Okay, they must, you know, those nasty weeks that some of them left behind. Maybe they're going to go and fill at least 50% of those weeks, because I see some of them have not filled almost anything of those weeks. Okay, so if I look at, for example, let's look at an example over here. These are all coin-based ones, so they don't have a lot of, you know, I'm looking for these wicks. Okay, these little wicks. So let's look at GRT here, for example, is that typically when you have a liquidation event like this, it's very rare that you're going to fill the entire week, but it is very common to at least fill 50% of it. It's common. Okay, so if I take a fib from the low to the high of that week, okay, where all the shit basically started, you at least want to hit one of these fib levels. 382, most common, 50%, and a little bit more rare is this zone over here. So I'm not expecting the entire week to be filled, but it would be nice to do this, and then you continue. So if Bitcoin is going to do this, well, then maybe most of the altcoins will at least go and fill the 382 of the week. That's what could happen. So I'm not saying it's going to do this. Okay, I'm just saying that Bitcoin dominance could protect the altcoins. Okay, it still gets downwards momentum. It moves with Bitcoin. It doesn't capitulate like it did with this. So that's potentially what could happen. In the bullish case scenario, you don't fill the wick. You've already filled a little bit. Okay, you don't fill anymore. You start building bullish structures back to the upside. I'm tracking momentums on many altcoins. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of the altcoins now at the moment, but I am tracking the momentum on a lot of altcoins. Which one was I looking at? I was looking at Cosmos. Okay, you guys can see I'm tracking momentum here like a crazy person. Okay, I need to go to regular. I'm tracking this momentum here to the downside. I've got my trend. My alarms are set. I need to set my alarm on this one, by the way. I forgot. Okay, I'm just tracking the momentum here at the moment. On the daily time frame, Atom actually looks really strong still. Okay, it still has a beautiful higher low over there. Okay, especially if I look at it on the log scale. If I go here onto the weekly time frame, and I know I am considering the Coinbase pair, but I mean, if you look at Atom, for example, over here, okay, it can still go down here to the 786, perfectly fine. Okay, and then reverse here back to the upside to go and claim the highs. Right, it still has a lot of breathing room over here. Dewald, I see that momentum can take out the pivot highs on 112 as ABC flat. What is your take? Yes, I did discuss that. Definitely possibility. Okay, so yeah, on the smaller time frames, I mean, there's so much liquidity there, guys. I mean, I'm not sure if you can see. There's so much liquidity at 112. So much liquidity. And what could definitely, even in a bearish case or in a bullish case scenario, I would expect a reaction in that zone because of the liquidity. Okay, 112 is this little pivot. Okay, so you basically have 3 pivots over here. Look, stop losses, stop losses, stop losses. People, you know, expecting momentum to roll over because you have a high, you have a low, lower low. You have a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So the momentum is to the downside. And when you play momentum to the downside, so if you're playing this little move, that's where your stop loss goes. Okay. Okay, price falls again, then you move your stop loss. Okay, price falls again, then you move your stop loss. So it would be nice to go and stop them out. Would be very nice to go and stop them out. Okay, and I would expect a reaction in the zone. So I've gone through all of that scenarios. Stuffer 1, I have gone through all of these scenarios. Dewald, can you look at ADA? Should I look at ADA? Let's see if I do have it here. On my, I don't have a Coinbase pair for ADA here at the moment. Okay, let's see. ADA, USD. Look at Coinbase pair rather. Let's look at ADA on the weekly time frame. Let's just see. Not a lot of data here on the weekly time frame. Let's go to the 12-hour. Just want to look at the latest structure. 2, 3, 4, 5, contracting. It's expanding at the moment. That doesn't really make sense. Regular. Right, well, you know, let's just look at this little structure. I think this is the easiest. You have a nice little impulse here to the upside. 1 2 1 2. Maybe you've got your 3 4 5 4 5 here to the upside. You have a long corrective structure, okay, that potentially ended over here. 1 2 3 4 5. A B C. 1 2 3 4 5. No, it has a chance to find some upwards momentum. Guys, it's going to take me too long to do proper Elliott wave technical analysis. The easiest thing that you can do is to say you look at price action, you identify your support. Okay, there's nice support in this zone, and you can see every time price tapped into that zone, it got a little bit of a bounce. Some bounces were really nice here to the upside. So it's here at the zone. So this presents a longing opportunity. I would like these lows to be claimed, because I can just imagine how much liquidity is lying over here. That would be nice. You grab the liquidity, you form a swing failure pattern, and then you continue momentum to the upside. Okay. On the smaller time frame, obviously you can wait for the breakouts. And guys, all I'm doing is I'm applying my strategy. Okay. You can see that there's nice little trends forming. Okay. You have a nice little trend. You wait for the breakout. You apply your trading strategy. For now, there's nothing to be done. There's nothing to. This is a no trade zone. Nah, there's no strategy that I can apply successfully from a trading perspective. So I sit on my hands until it breaks the trend. Then I can make a trading decision. Or you get an SFP there from the lows. Then I can trade. So at the moment, it's in a no trade zone for me at the moment. Okay, but I don't particularly like to day trade altcoins. I like to day trade Bitcoin. Unfortunately, alts have been a trader's market and not a hodler's market. Yes, you're quite right. It's trade at support, long and sell. Yes, basically, Mike, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, you just apply your trading strategy. You long support and you take profits at resistance. You short resistance, you take profits at support. I don't particularly like to day trade altcoins, but if that's your cup of tea, maybe from a swing perspective, because the percentage moves are bigger. But my argument is always, well, I can just use a little bit more leverage on Bitcoin and I can get the same amount of money that I get from alts from a day trading perspective. Okay, my alt pegs are hurting, so mine as well. Okay, some of my alts are still, they looking good, but I got stopped out of all my swing trades, guys, with profits or break even. I didn't lose money with my swing trades. Okay, I got stopped out of all my swing trades. So now it's just my spot bags that I still have. Okay, it's just my spot bags. Right, legends, thank you so much for joining this live stream. I have unfortunately run out of time. Remember to smash up that like button. The best deals on the exchanges down in the description. If you want to join our Legends Pro community, link also down in the description. Have a fantastic weekend. Until the next one, cheers for now.